In 2023, Airbnb reported over 7 million active listings across the globe, more rooms available than the top 5 hotel chains combined. And that single fact reshaped how investors, renters, city planners, and ordinary homeowners think about property forever. Welcome to Realty Pulse. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how one app launched by two broke roommates trying to pay rent quietly rewired the entire real estate market. We will look at the data behind the short-term rental explosion, the cities fighting back, the landlords getting rich, and the renters getting squeezed out. And we will get to the one uncomfortable truth that almost nobody in real estate wants to say out loud, because it changes everything about how you should be thinking about property right now. Let's go back to 2007. San Francisco. Two designers named Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia could not afford their rent. Their solution was painfully simple. They bought 3 air mattresses, set up a basic website called Air Bed and Breakfast, and rented out space in their apartment during a local design conference. They made $1,200 in a weekend. Nobody called it a revolution at the time. It looked like a weird side hustle for desperate millennials. But the timing was extraordinary. The 2008 financial crisis hit just months later. Millions of Americans were suddenly looking for extra income. Trusting strangers started feeling less strange when the alternative was losing your home. Airbnb grew not in spite of economic collapse, but because of it. By 2011, the platform had 1 million listings. By 2015, it surpassed the room count of every major hotel chain on Earth. The speed of that growth was unlike anything real estate had seen before. Here is what made this different from anything that came before. Traditional real estate investment required capital, credit, legal entities, and property management infrastructure. Airbnb flattened all of that. Suddenly, anyone with a spare bedroom, a mortgage they were struggling to pay, or a second property sitting idle could become a hospitality operator overnight. The barrier to entry dropped to nearly zero. And the financial upside was immediate and significant. The numbers tell that story clearly. A study by AirDNA found that the average Airbnb host in the United States earned approximately $14,000 per year in 2022. But hosts in high-demand markets like Miami, Nashville, and Scottsdale were pulling in anywhere from $40,000 to over $100,000 annually on a single property. Compare that to the average long-term rental income in those same cities, which typically ran 30 to 50% lower, and you can see immediately why landlords started doing the math differently. But here is what nobody talks about when they celebrate those numbers. Every property that converted from a long-term rental to a short-term rental removed 1 unit from the housing supply available to local residents. And in cities where housing was already constrained, that removal had consequences that compounded year after year. A Harvard study published in 2019 analyzed Airbnb's expansion across major American cities and found that a 10% increase in Airbnb listings correlated with a 0.42% increase in rental prices and a 0.76% increase in home purchase prices. Those percentages sound small until you apply them to a market like New York City, where even a fraction of a percent represents thousands of dollars per year for working families. Barcelona saw rents rise by 7% in neighborhoods with the heaviest Airbnb concentration between 2015 and 2018. In Amsterdam, entire historic districts were losing permanent residents as short-term rentals consumed available housing stock. The transformation was not just financial. It was physical and social. Neighborhoods built around community, local shops, schools, long-term relationships began hollowing out. Landlords who once knew their tenants by name now managed calendars and cleaning crews. Buildings that once housed families became de facto hotels operating without hotel regulations, without hotel taxes, and without hotel accountability. And that is exactly when governments started pushing back. Hard. New York City passed Local Law 18 in 2023, one of the most aggressive short-term rental regulations in the world. It required hosts to register with the city, be present during guest stays, and limited rentals to 2 guests at a time. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Airbnb listings in New York dropped from approximately 22,000 to under 4,000 within months of enforcement. Hotel room prices in the city spiked by an average of 15% almost immediately, revealing just how much pricing pressure Airbnb had been putting on the traditional hospitality industry for years. Other cities followed similar paths, each calibrating differently. Paris capped short-term rentals at 120 nights per year for primary residences.
Los Angeles implemented strict registration requirements.
Japan restricted short-term rentals to 180 days per year nationally. Each of these moves reflected the same fundamental tension. A platform built on the idea of sharing economy had evolved into something much larger and more disruptive than anyone initially anticipated. But here is the counterintuitive piece that rarely gets discussed.
The regulatory crackdown did not eliminate Airbnb's impact on real estate. It redirected it.
As casual hosts were pushed out of major urban markets, professional investors and property management companies stepped in with greater force in secondary markets, places like Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Sedona, Arizona, and the Smoky Mountains region, where regulations remained light and tourism demand was rising. These markets saw home prices jump 30 to 60% between 2019 and 2022, driven substantially by investor demand for short-term rental properties. Local buyers, many of whom had lived in those communities for generations, found themselves outbid by out-of-state investors armed with Airbnb revenue projections.
The data on investor behavior during this period is striking.
According to a 2022 report from the National Association of Realtors, investor purchases of single-family homes reached record levels, with short-term rental potential cited as a primary motivation in markets previously considered retirement or vacation destinations. The Airbnb economy had effectively created an entirely new asset class, not hotels, not traditional rentals, but something in between that rewired how properties were valued, financed, and traded.
Lenders noticed.
By 2021, major financial institutions began offering specialized mortgage products that used projected short-term rental income to qualify borrowers. Fannie Mae updated its guidelines to allow Airbnb income to count toward conventional loan qualification. This was a seismic shift. It meant that the speculative income potential of a property, not just its stable, documented rental history, could now determine how much a buyer could borrow and what they could afford to pay.
Asset prices responded accordingly. So where does this leave real estate today? The picture is genuinely complex.
Airbnb did democratize hospitality investment in ways that created real wealth for millions of individuals who previously had no access to that kind of return. It also accelerated housing unaffordability in ways that are measurable, documented, and ongoing. Both of those things are true simultaneously, and oversimplifying either one does a disservice to the people making real decisions about where to live and whether to invest. What is clear is this. The short-term rental market has permanently altered how real estate professionals analyze property value.
Cash-on-cash return calculations now routinely include short-term rental scenarios alongside traditional rental analysis.
Location analysis has expanded to include proximity to tourist attractions, event venues, and experiential destinations that drive Airbnb demand.
And
market cycles in resort and secondary markets now respond to platform algorithm changes and regulatory news in ways they never did before.
The investor who ignores this shift is analyzing real estate with an outdated framework.
The policymaker who ignores the housing affordability dimension is governing with an incomplete picture. And the homeowner sitting on a property in a high-demand short-term rental market who has never run the numbers is almost certainly leaving significant money on the table.
Airbnb did not just change how people travel.
It changed what a property is worth, who can afford to live where, and how the next generation of real estate investors will build wealth.
That is not a small thing.
Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Realty Pulse for a brand new video every single day.
We will see you in the next one.